repair that artery.
You're gonna burn, alright? Maybe you should get a job. Today is a sequel to a really old game, the original dating from the year 2000, and the sequel that some people don't actually consider to be one from 2003. Deus Ex: Human Revolution went through a lot of hoops to even be released. The company was even rebranded and bought a few times to get there. They were Eidos, then SCI, then back to Eidos, and then Eidos, but Eidos Montreal this time when Square Enix bought them out. All this happened from like 2005 to 2009, and Human Revolution was released in 2011, so this was all going on the whole time they were making the game. I'm sure they were kind of worried that the whole work that they put into the game was just never going to get released after all the buyouts. There was a good chance that this game got canceled probably like 4 or 5 times. The first thing you'll notice about Human Revolution is how yellow it is. Like the color. Why does the game have a yellow filter over it? However, if you're playing the director's cut, you may notice that it's not really all that yellow. That's because when they made the director's cut, they removed the filter when they released it. So, unless you really enjoy the color yellow, play the director's cut instead of vanilla. Moving on. Human Revolution actually holds up really well in visuals today. The lighting is static and the textures have aged a little bit, but nothing really stands out as bad. Especially for its age, it looks surprisingly good. The models and animations hold up really well, much better than the textures do. Next is sound. Human Revolution has a few original scores of music, as well as some generic background ambient music. The actual scores are really good, and fit the theme extremely well. Even Kaplaki got involved with some of these and released a single, so you know I'm interested. Voice acting in Human Revolution is solid overall. The characters are for the most part well written and well voiced with their dialogues. Some are exceptional, like the main character Adam Jensen. His writing and voice acting really makes for well done storytelling. And overall, if Elias Toufexis didn't voice Adam Jensen, it would have really hurt the overall quality and storytelling from Human Revolution's narrative.
Yeah, hang on just a sec. Shit. Jensen?
Haas, surprised to see you here.
Yeah, well, I guess you're better at looking out for yourself than I am.
I don't have time for your self-pity. I need to get into the morgue.
That's it? Oh, forget it.
Gameplay in Human Revolution is a first-person / third-person shooter hybrid. When you're running around normally, the game's in first-person perspective, but once you enter cover, you change to third-person. Fortunately, in Human Revolution, this is a seamless transition between the two, so it actually feels just fine switching between the two of them. Guns have relatively good feedback, but for the most part, a lot of the guns do really not that much damage unless you hit the enemy in the head. If you get close to enemies, you can do a melee takedown, but this requires energy. Energy can be improved through augments or eating food to replenish some of it. However, even with upgrades, it recharges extremely slow and will only recharge a single cell. You have to eat the food to get more. This really should have been an upgradable thing, seeing as you only recharge the one cell and you can only melee a single enemy with that one cell unless you run away, hide, recharge, or eat some sort of food. In Deus Ex 1, you could use melee weapons like swords or crowbars, but in Human Revolution, there are none of those. A lot of the time in Human Revolution, you'll just end up being just below what's required to melee. You'll just stand there like a moron and he'll just shoot you in the face while you're trying to melee him and you'll just die. At the start of the game, due to story reasons, Jensen only has a few augments available to him. Over time, you gain experience by doing basically everything, and this can be used to unlock more of these augs. Instead of levels, you gain praxis points once the bar fills up, and each AUG requires a different amount of praxis points to unlock, but it's not a huge difference. It's either 1 point or 2. If you like the skill points from the first game, or the pick one of 2 AUGs from the same game, this is entirely gone. Now it's just like a Burger King menu where you get to choose what you want. And there really is some cool ones in here, like cloaking for invisibility. Yeah, this was in the original game. You can take down 2 enemies instead of 1 with the single energy cell you got. That's kind of cool. And you can get some more carry space for your Resident Evil style inventory grid, as well as like others for like rating how you're doing with speech when talking to somebody. But it doesn't even tell you exactly how you're doing. It just gives you their emotional feeling or something. I don't even know. I couldn't even use it. Or you'll get like upgrades for like hacking, for example. You unlock these over time from the experience points, or you can actually find these praxis kits in the wild, which give you a praxis point per kit, or you can even buy them from medical clinics, but they really only have 1 or 2 in stock most of the time, so you can't just like grind a bunch of money and just max your character out on the first screen. They make you come back a few times. Level design plays a huge role in what makes Human Revolution as good as it is. In the previous titles, maps were huge and sprawling, with tons of different options as to where you could go, how you could either take on a problem or even circumvent it altogether.
Nicely done, Jensen. May I ask how?
A vent in the roof. It'll be in my report next time we discuss security loopholes.
Oh, goody. I'll be sure to take notes. The Typhoon is in the factoring labs. There's an elevator just past the assembly labs that will take you to it.
Got it.
Human Revolution is much more confined than Deus Ex 1 was, but it's still considerably more open than basically any other games on the market even to date when compared to modern titles. They were definitely trying to emulate the older titles with this. They even give you like extra experience points for doing things like sneaking through air conditioning ducts or talking your way through instead of just wasting everybody. Even sometimes they'll hide powerful weapons or praxis kits inside these hidden areas. Human Revolution encourages players to try and find alternatives to bypass or solve problems, some even with extremely unorthodox means. However, at the same time, you don't have the big sandbox like you had before with the original Deus Ex games, where you could do whatever you want, get wherever you want, and the game didn't really punish you. Human Revolution still has, not necessarily invisible walls, but walls. Each section of the game is divided into hub worlds with a story element that causes you to travel between each one. However, these hub worlds are actually really small overall, and one of the later ones is split into 3 loading screens, with each one having different areas altogether, with the main story sending you to each one at different times and causing you to backtrack between each one as well. I'd imagine this is because the small memory capacity on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. These are the consoles that it was meant to be played on at release, but it really does break up the gameplay, and it even causes a decent amount of confusion as to where you're supposed to go next. The hub worlds are really small, but they do have plenty of content and things to do. There's all sorts of side quests and areas to explore that are purely optional, and in the most cases give decent rewards or experience. Like for example, at the start there's a guy who's hidden off the beaten path who sells a silencer. This is a pretty big upgrade for a lot of your guns. The game's not a stealth game, but it's a stealth game. Now, they added a hacking minigame to try to spice up the original click and wait to hack. The minigame overall isn't that bad, honestly. Basically, you capture nodes to progress to an endpoint. You can also fortify your own to make them more difficult to hack, use worms or viruses to stop time or instantly capture a node. Each node could have higher or lower levels, which basically just makes it capture slower or faster. It becomes pretty old by the time you do it like 10 times though, and some of the terminals are extremely hard to hack, even while you're going really fast and like the security rating's not even that high. The controls on this don't help either. It's really easy to click on a virus or a worm by mistake and just waste it. And this is bad, seeing as these are consumable on use. Now, story. This is a bit of a difficult subject to cover in a Deus Ex game, seeing as the previous titles had such depth and well-written storylines. Plenty of the well-written characters and their development over time is well told, conspiracy theories everywhere with the Deus Ex game concept. Many players were very scared that Human Revolution wouldn't be a Deus Ex game, but it for sure is. Plenty of characters that are in Deus Ex 1 are in Human Revolution. And a lot of their backstories even filled in by Human Revolution in that regard. Starting out, you are Jensen, who gets hurt, so like 80% of his body needs to be replaced by Augs. Attacks happen, people die, the government's doing things, agencies are doing things, the locals aren't having a great time. It's really not that much different from the original Deus Ex. The only thing that's missing is the, what is it called? The White Death, the Black Death, whatever. I think it was the White Death. It's been like a long time. There's always a bigger fish, or someone who's running the show in the shadows. People think they're in charge, but they're not. Human Revolution was a prequel to Deus Ex, so a lot of story elements actually lead straight into it, as it should. Pretty often, Human Revolution will make you make a decision on the moral compass as well. Do you do the lawful thing and stop the man from smuggling out extremely expensive drugs that people need to survive from an omega huge biotech company that profits off the backs of these same really poor people? Or, when you figure it out, do you let them keep smuggling and robbing the biotech blind for the good of the people? Basically, the people have to have this to survive, and the biotech company really in the end isn't gonna notice the difference. This mix with the dialogues and voice acting sells the concept really well, and makes Human Revolution for sure feel like a Deus Ex game more than anything else in the game.
And that shit costs money. But what choice do you have? Without the drug, you'll die. Rejection syndrome, crippling pain, that just ain't right. So I did the only decent thing to do. I stepped up.
I can respect that. But blackmail is still blackmail. Corella wants out, and I'm here to make sure he gets out.
Man, this whole thing is becoming way too much trouble. I've even got 2 local pushers on my back because they say my philanthropic actions are undercutting their profit.
That's not your only problem. A gun-toting client was waiting for you in your apartment earlier.
Really? In my apartment? Shit. The dealer's probably sent him.
Human Revolution is without a doubt a Deus Ex game. A lot of people were really worried about this and were thinking that this wouldn't be the case. However, just before the game released, the E3 demo we all saw on stage suddenly showed up for download around the internet. I was totally not interested in the game until I tried it at a friend's house who had downloaded this very same demo. And after trying it, I went home and pre-ordered the game. I really wish more games would do this more often, but in a more legal manner, because you could sort of argue that downloading this demo was probably against the law when he did it. But what they really should do is let me download the E3 demo and play it at home. I understand it might be buggy or something like this, but I would have probably never even touched the game if I hadn't played the demo. I hadn't played the original Deus Ex until after playing Human Revolution. And in the end, I thoroughly enjoyed Human Revolution, even if they streamlined the entire game compared to the original one. After playing the original one, I was more disappointed the fact that they streamlined it, but Human Revolution is still pretty fun and has a really engaging story that keeps you wanting to continue even if the ending doesn't. Human Revolution is for sure worth playing today, but only on the director's cut. They did a little bit of quality of life improvements across the board, and they removed that stupid yellow aesthetic filter that actually makes the game look way worse. Go look up a comparison video, it's kinda comical. As always, thank you for watching the video. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like on the video, or a comment below if you have feedback on the game, the video itself, or suggestion as to what to review next.